The beginning of the chapter, we see a flashback 2 years ago. A woman by the name of Nagare Mari, age 35, was trying to add a decoration to a piece of food. "Good morning, Mom," said a young boy. She got startled, worrying about the seaweed she dropped. The boy's name was Nagare Kiritaka. He told his mom she didn't have to do much in the morning. She was shaking, thinking he would get picked on for his bland bento. He told his mom she should be confident when making food. She looked happy with his response. At St. Spring School, we see a tent. Nagare was getting forced to the ground by someone's leg. The person's shoe let up, and we got to see a thumbtack. He said Bullseye playing a sick game with him. 5 people were in the room enjoying themselves. We get to see all their names, and I will not be saying them all. He looked at our main character, and he was hung to a pole with fluid leaking. The guy looked down on him and stomped on him. He started yelling at him for getting his expensive shoes wet. The other bullies were just viewing the incident. Then someone grabbed his shoulder, saying, "Not the face." He started confirming, telling him not the face before. He exclaimed he lost his cool. But the other dude told him they won't be friends if that happens. Some of the bullies left, and Okaya took his bento and flung it. He stepped on the chicken his mother was working hard on. He was giving an evil anime character speech. He fed his bento to the cockroaches. He started ranting about how he started giving him knowledge about these roaches until he brought the bento near him while stepping on him. He brought a cockroach from the bento and shoved it towards his face while the girl was recording. He was crying and attempted to yell for help. He was freed later on, spitting out and eating the leftovers of his food while crying. During his childhood, these bullies wanted to tame Nagare. In the washroom, he was held by his neck like something was going to end him. A timer was on the toilet, and Okaya said they were just playing. They then started choking him, and he immediately felt the pain. He screamed, he gave up. Okaya smiled, and Kinugawa told him they spent time prepping for this. Someone dashed in, saving the person getting hanged. The bullies thought the game was ruined by this person. Okaya asked if the person who saved the other guy wanted to take his place. Back to the present, he announces he's home. Confetti appears, and his mother appears with a cake showing it's his 14th birthday. She notices his wound, and he was about to say something upsetting. Instead, he said he just fell. She told him she would help treat it because it could get infected, but he refused. She didn't back down. While she treated Nagare, she started to exclaim about her wanting to be a school nurse. Nagare was curious as to why. She was bullied, exclaiming she was an orphan, and the school nurse was the only person who supported her. He asked why she didn't become one, and she placed a bandage on him. "Because I've received a family member I wanted to protect." He smiled, thinking of wanting to protect her as well. She was on the phone later telling a detective he was hiding something. She thought he was forcing himself to be a good person. Investigators thought she was overprotective, while another one said he was on the move. He was playing video games in bed while Kawase sent him a video. It was an adult video starring his mom. He played it, realizing it wasn't her voice, knowing it was fake. He was told to go somewhere. He got up and left. He went to his mom, looked at her, and then dashed. The bullies didn't expect him to come. They start talking about his mom's attributes, provoking him, and one said it would be very easy to F her. He told them to shut up, causing them to laugh. Okaya told him to stop that look in his eyes. His eyes widened, falling to the snowy ground. Okaya showed his phone with Nagare's mom tapes. He was defeated on the floor, unable to muster any words. He sighed, watching him cry. He said he would delete the videos if he jumps off the cliff. He asked if he'll die, but the response was a few broken bones. A pathway was made for him to jump off. He went up to his ears and told him to jump within 3 seconds or he will spread the videos. A countdown started, and thought of his mom. He started running off the cliff. On his mom's phone, he was getting tracked. She turned a corner and found him on the floor. There was blood all over the floor, and Mari had fear in her eyes. His last words were "Mom," before he got hit by a truck ramming through his body. She ran with tears, tripping once, then going to her son. She grabbed his body and screamed for him to come back. The bullies were shocked that he died and wanted to run so they wouldn't get arrested. Okaya was not running, but instead staring down, saying, "Ah, I let him win and escape." Mari let out a final scream. She returned home holding a box. The detective told her about it was a suicide, but she interrupted, saying it was their fault. He apologizes for not protecting him, and she continues sobbing. The detective said he was attempting suicide but then got ran over when he fell. They told her about the evidence and they eventually blamed it on abuse, and Mari became the person in trouble. She was slicing strawberries and she hit her finger. Blood was getting exposed. She looked defeated, bringing her knife towards her finger once again. But she heard a noise. In Kiritaka's room, she was looking through his belongings and found a diary. She went through his diary shocked by what June 5th said. The next few days, she flipped through shocked on what was being told. "I've kept all the evidence in the USB," the diary said. Mari booted it into her laptop, exploring the videos. She was horrified to watch videos of what happened. She wondered if the note was forcefully written, continuing to watch more videos. She eventually stopped, coming to the conclusion they're all demons. Kinugawa, Shikami, Ajiki, and Kawase were all fanatics. However, the ringleader was Okaya. The diary continued with, "I need more evidence." He was crying, not wanting his mom to die, while she was sobbing. Her eyes changed, seeking revenge. She didn't want revenge since it was too soft. She wanted judgment. 2 years later. At a school, people were gossiping about the new teacher. She was called the Maria of the nurse office. She was working when a student asked if it was odd to be a virgin in high school. She was surprised, asking what she was talking about. Someone came up to Maria telling him he has a fever. She touched her forehead and his forehead while thinking. She gave him a solution before getting asked to answer her question. A hand came through the door, sliding it open. Okaya was asking for a favor. She faked her enthusiastic, saying, "Of course." He said thanks. The girl from earlier excused herself. She asked what he wanted. He unrolled a poster exclaiming about anti-bullying and wanting to put up a poster hoping to one-up on the infirmary. She told him he can place it near the door. She talked about his passion for being a student council, leading up to her asking if he was really going to be a psychiatrist like his father. They got into a conversation and Okaya talked about his family. Maria said she knows everything as the nurse of the infirmary. 2 years ago, she divorced her husband and cut off all her connections. She got plastic surgery and reverted to her original name. Infiltrating the school was the easiest part. She was very close to the fat principal, and when she put distance from him, she had a fluid in her mouth. The principal looked devious, demanding her to swallow. She faked a smile. Later, she started spitting out what she drank. The water made an image of her family and her eyes had rage. She turned on the water knowing what she wanted to do. Maria looked down on Okaya, knowing judgment would be coming. Outside the school, a girl was looking sad because she could only give 2,000 yen to someone. She got stomped down like Kiritaka. Kawase showed her the video of shoplifting, calling her stupid. She was about to throw up while Kawase took photos. Luckily, Maria came and asked what he was doing. Kawase goes next to Yajima and said he was just helping her because she was barfing. Maria asked if she wanted to head to the infirmary. She was threatened by Kawase, and she denied wanting to go. Maria went closer and brought Yajima's hands closer, telling her to come because the infirmary is made for children like her. Kawase looked worried, wondering if she figured it out. Maria showed his phone and started stating the rules of no phones. On the school rooftop, Shikimi was summarizing the story, and the other boys didn't want to get involved. Kawase told them to not worry, because they haven't figured it out about the death of Kiritaka. The 3 of them immediately became alerted, and it was Okaya. He was staring daggers, asking if he was talking about Nagare. Kawase apologized with no hesitation. His eyes turned evil, and the atmosphere changed. He remembers the rebellious eyes, and Kawase tried to bribe him with money, but he left slamming the door. He then gets pissed off, getting a flashback. Kawase was shoving Kiritaka's head down a pot of water. He insults him, saying he has to steal from his parents to pay him. Kiritaka comes back at him, saying Okaya doesn't care about him. He used both of his hands to shove him down the water. Maria was finishing up her work, exhausted, then pulled up lines of data. It was data on Kawase and what evil he does, like creating deep fakes. Maria enters a cottage, taking off her clothes, and kneels down. She then prays to Kiritaka with candles lit. She gets reminded of her sleeping with him while she slept with a portrait of him. Kawase was saying vile things while counting his cash. He then looks at his phone horrified at a video of him beating his meat. Kawase was walking hastily to school while thinking who would have made that video. 2 videos were sent, beating the meat one and him bullying Kiritaka. A black male asked for 3 million yen and he couldn't afford that. A girl was taking pictures of a tree blooming and took a shot of her underwear. He thought those girls were dumb for letting that happen. Okaya came up from the stall, grabbing his phone, telling him he is not allowed to use his phone. He read through the messages and told him he was good at making money. Flashing back, he breathing heavily, not wanting to get abandoned. Maria stared down at him, knowing she removed the hacking app. She knew with all the evidence she could screw up his life, but it was just revenge. The condemnation started. She looks down at the ground, thinking about her son walking with a friend to school. Someone at the door asked if she was interrupting. She said she was not. Maria let her sleep at a bed, telling her she had a perfect attendance and she shouldn't push herself. Yajima was shocked she knew that. Maria looked like an angel, telling her she knows everything. Yajima started talking about shoplifting about a friend and exclaimed her situation. Maria believed she shouldn't give in, and she would help. Yajima started crying in bed. After school, Kawase was still sweating. He yelled at Yajima, telling her he was lonely and needed comfort. She started running away, making him wonder why she wasn't just freezing in place. Kawase caught up, pointing a sharp tool to her neck. Kawase dunked her head in water, screaming why his videos aren't on her phone. She tried to breathe and managed to say she didn't know. He started to threaten her with all the videos he has. She said he should spread it. He thought she was stupid allowing it to happen, ruining her career. She told him his demands were way worse. She yelled for him to leave her life, but he then smashed her face in water. He was mad, not letting go of her head, letting her drown. Yajima was thinking of Maria calling for help. Kawase gets hooked like a fish to the door. Then a hand touches his neck. Maria stabbed anesthesia to his neck. Yajima got out of the water, coughing, looking behind her. His consciousness came back to him, thinking he was dreaming, and it wasn't true. A knife almost hit him. He was chained up, unsure of the situation. Maria announced, "Welcome to the penitentiary." He was confused. Water started to pour down to his cell. Unable to move, it was time for judgment to begin. Kawase wondered why she was right in front of him. Acting delusional, he thought it was a prank and that it was a request. She stared at him with intent, and it made him realize she was serious. She told him it was a punishment. Stealing from something important from someone was the reason, and she was going to steal his oxygen. He tried to break the chains and told her it was a mistake. He tried to convince her with words, but Maria thought of how the words related to Kiritaka. If she didn't fight back, that's evidence it isn't a big deal, he mentioned. She slammed her foot on the glass to tell him to shut up, and there is a way for redemption. She explained the biggest crime he committed. Entering the numbers will save him. He would have to swim up, and if he couldn't do it, a machete was next to him. He thought she had no intention of allowing him to leave. He started realizing all his sins, thinking he could just try every combination. Of course, he didn't have enough time, and the water reached his hips. His last thoughts were to apologize, but she didn't give a single fuck. When on death's door, he now understands what he wants. This thought sparks a light, and he said, "Nagare Kiritaka." He looked behind, and Maria's eyes changed. Looking at the 4 digits, he mocks her, saying it was the anniversary of his death. Sweating, she watched him type in the numbers. His smile changed when he grasped he didn't know when. He was shouting Nagare's name, wanting him to die on a holy day instead of some winter. Water reached his stomach, and he was looking at the blade and then Maria. Maria's smile turned devilish. He brought the knife to his chained-up hand and brought it close. The blade cut through his skin, and before it cut his hand, he stopped. He was crying, yelling at Maria what he thought. She just told him he was going to die. The water finally reached his entire body, and he cut off his hand without any hesitation, thinking there is no way he is going to die. He believes he will have a good life and enter a university, which is funny. He was slicing his arm, but then his bone stopped him from being able to. Break, he thought. Something did break, but it wasn't his bones. Instead, it was the machete. Before his vision disappeared, he saw Maria holding a photo of him sinking, comparing her to the devil. He was dead. Maria got rid of all the water using a pump and entered the chamber. She entered the code to free him and told him his greatest sin was being born while holding him with a knife. An angel defending devils appeared next to her while she sat down with his head in her lap. Exhausted, the fire she lit reminded her of her son and husband together. Shivers went down her spine, coughing while enduring pain. "Fortigo," she mentions. Okaya tried to call Kawase but got no results. The detective that was Maria's husband asked about the disappearance.